What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another panel show. Let's introduce the panel. First up, Lee McQueen. Welcome back. How you doing, my friend?
All good, my man. All good. Still buzzing from the weekend, boys. So yeah, I'm really pleased to get into it and representing the last one on Spurs, as you well know, today on your fantastic channel. So yeah, looking forward to getting into it, mate.
Yeah, good to have you, man. Good to have you. And another returning guest, the Irish Hotspur, Dave. How you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm absolutely good, gentlemen. You know, great off the point at the library there at the weekend. Bit upset. I didn't get down to get my Gary Neville Barnett sorted out today because of torrential rain. But look, you know, not in a result against Liverpool won't sort out.
100%. Sim, all good?
Yeah, all good. I'm just absolutely drinking in those Gooner tears at the moment. They were so confident for the North London derby. I was watching all the previews, and I don't think I saw one Arsenal fan, not even like say a close game. They all said 5-1.
Didn't even come into their thinking that they could drop
didn't even come
points.
thinking we can maybe lay a glove on them. They're like the audacity apparently we had to just play football against them, and it's so good to see them basically being proved wrong. And I've been loving it, and look, makes me excited for the weekend.
I can't wait, Sim. Just on that, I can't wait to see Jurgen Klopp's tears at the weekend. There's going to be a few. And by the way, Merson, I don't know if any of you have seen it, but Merson he's on Sky tonight, and he's just come out and publicly apologised for his ridiculous statement. So I think, there's a nice little feather in the cap there for sure, boys.
Yeah, it's nice seeing them kind of crawl back with their tails between their legs. I mean, Ian Wright as well coming out and giving us some nice words. So happy days. But look, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about the game from the weekend at the Emirates. The question is, did we deserve more from the game, Lee? Because in my opinion, I think a draw was maybe a fair result. We played very well, but Arsenal had their own chances as well. But what's your opinion? Do you think that we deserved more from the game?
Before I answer that, Ben, how many times you watched it back?
Quite a few.
Guilty.
Quite a few.
I've watched it 3 times. I actually do think it was a fair result. I was actually on Harry's scarf. You know, Harry does a channel as well. I was on his channel just before to do a preview of the game, and I actually said it'd be 2-2. I think I copied you, Sim, to be fair. I think you went for 2-2 as well. I think
3-2 Spurs there.
I did 2-2, yeah. So I
overconfident.
went for Desmond, but I said to my mate, I was watching it with my mate Steph at his house, and I never normally go. It's the worst fixture for me, lads. I absolutely hate it. I never go. I've been once to the Emirates away, so I know you boys were there. It's absolutely sick, but I've only been once. So if I can't get a ticket to be in the game, I don't like going out. Just watch it at home. But I went round my mate's house, and by the time, I think it was the 76th, 77th minute, I said, it doesn't matter what happens now. We've proven to everybody that's written us off that we are back. And it was that's what meant more, I think, than actually, like, don't get me wrong, of course, didn't want to lose, and we didn't. But the question that you asked me was, did we deserve more? Man, Richarlison, man, I've watched his back a few times. I've fully screened this and everything. That was going in, and I think Raya's beaten as well. And also Porro, if he hits that no-look, almost like a no-look pass or a first-time pass, man, Sonny is in the back of the net. So, but equally, you can say that about Jesus. You know what I mean? When Madders caught him, and if they go 2-0 up, it's a different game. So I think on reflection, it's a fair result. If you look at it and go 35 minutes, maybe to Arsenal, I think I agreed with you, Ben. I watched your show in a week, and you said about first 15, 20 minutes, we did look a bit under the cosh, to be fair. And you'd expect that, boys, wouldn't you? And viewers and listeners, you'd expect that. But I think after that, certainly after 35 minutes, it was all Spurs. Even up until when I watched it back, I thought it was when the substitutes went off. But when I watched it back, I think it was up to 80th minute, 85 minutes. We were, and then we still had 2 chances after that as well. So I think it was a fair result. And we'd have all taken, let's be brutally honest, right? We'd have all taken a draw, wouldn't we, before going in behind enemy lines, and we got the point, and we move on. I think we've shown certainly that lot down the road that they can't write us off, and they know they're reacting the way they're reacting because they know we are back, baby, and I'm loving it.
Ange Ball is here to stay. But Dave, do you think we deserved a bit more from the game?
Yeah, 100%. Look, if you want me to be brutally honest, I think we were up against 12 men. Yeah, look, I thought we were up against 12 men. The referee, I thought, was an absolute disgrace, and I think he earned Arsenal that point. To be honest with you, outside of, the 2 goals, what did Arsenal have? The 2 Jesus chances. They didn't really create anything much more outside of that. And at the first goal, I do put down to that booking on Adoji, which I think was extremely harsh, considering Saka fouled him twice before that. And, as we know, Adoji can't make a challenge on Saka within the next 5-10 minutes, so that's a second yellow and he's off. And that's where Saka got his only joy of the game, was just after that moment. Then you look at the handball incident. For me, look, I think if it wasn't giving it to me up the other end, I'd go absolutely berserk. I think it is a penalty. But my problem is how long they took to come to that decision, that there's obviously a few different viewpoints on it and no one's really sure whether it is a penalty or not. So if you're not sure, then in my opinion, you don't give it. So I actually do think that the referee had a lot to play, including booking the likes of Sarr and Bissouma as well, back to back. And I think the yellow cards that he dished out were in crucial positions for Tottenham. But look, we held our own. The youngsters, the likes of Sarr and Adoji, to be in the Lions den with the pressure on them, the crowd against them, the referee giving them bookings for them to still stand up, get around the pitch, make tackles, work hard for Tottenham and not shy away. When you look at Odegaard, the cheap cleaning product, he shied away. He went absolutely anonymous. So for me, I think definitely we deserve the win. You look at Richarlison, couple of chances near the end, like Lee said, with Pedro Porro's ball. On another day, that one's in front of Sonny. That's his hat trick. And then Brendan Johnson had a couple of chances as well. So if you made a sweet connection with the one in the first half, you probably get out of there with a win. I think absolutely we deserved it. But look, expectations, right? If you would have said to me, heading into the Liverpool game with Man United and Arsenal then at the Emirates, you're going to go in there unbeaten at the start of this project after losing your star man in the summer, changing your leadership in the summer, a lot of new sort of debuts going into that North London derby, I would have snapped your hand off. And I think when I walk away from that, we're six games, 7 if you want to include Fulham, into the rebuild. They're 5 years, 750 million deep into Arteta's rebuild. And both sets of fans walk away knowing that Tottenham's rebuild is more exciting and going more places quicker than what Arsenal have done with their rebuild and the amount of money they spent. I actually predict there's trouble on the horizon for Arteta.
I love that prediction. Absolutely love it.
Nice.
But I think when you take the whole game into account, especially the first 20 minutes, like Lee said, I said, we did come under the cosh. We did look nervy. Adoji was making mistakes. Bissouma was making mistakes. Bissouma didn't look like the player he's been all season in that first half. And Maddison obviously getting robbed by Jesus in our box. I kind of do get the feeling after seeing that and then the performance we put in after that a draw was a fair result. I mean, do you agree, Sim?
I think a draw was, on the balance of the chances both teams created, a draw was probably a fair result. But I would probably say that if I was to analyze the game from a Tottenham point of view, I think we were better than them on the day. I don't think it was even. I actually think we were better. And I'll tell you why. Because both teams, right, are playing a certain brand of football to try and keep possession, keep the ball, outpass the opposition. And that's their philosophies of both teams. And we were the team on the day, after both halves, after 90 minutes. We had more possession, we had more passes. I think the shots on goal was the same, but we were the away team. I think in terms of big chances created, I think we were just ahead as well. And apart from that spell of like 20-30 minutes maybe in the first half where we were under the cosh and Arsenal were putting us under a lot of pressure, I think we were the better team. Even in that spell late in the game where Arsenal were probably putting us under a lot of pressure with some corners, we also hit back with some counter punches and we had some late chances as well. All this talk, by the way, of Arsenal having a better first half and stuff, we had as many chances as them in that first half. Everyone talks about this Jesus chance, but if Raya doesn't make one of the best saves of the season, we could also win that game. So you could also have it both ways. Everyone is talking about if Jesus puts it away, but we could also say the same thing with Johnson. And if you come away from that first half, Johnson's had 2 chances and we've scored, and they've had a couple chances and they've scored as well, and they scored with an own goal. So I think when you take into account that we went there to play our football after 6 games of playing the Ange Postecoglou way, and Arsenal have had 4 years under Mikel Arteta to develop their system, develop their philosophy, and all the players have had time to get up to speed. Like 4 years basically to get up to speed with the way they want to play. We went there and we outpassed them and we kept more possession. That was not part of the game plan for Arsenal. The game plan, look, if like last season, right, maybe if we're under Antonio Conte, if we go there and we have less possession, that's understandable because that's part of the game plan. We're not going to Arsenal to try and keep possession. So at the end, so you can maybe come away from those stats and say, we had less possession, but that's probably the game plan. So that makes sense. Arsenal don't come away from this game yesterday saying, we had less possession, it doesn't matter because that was the game plan. We outpassed them. We kept the ball better than them. That was that is the reality of the situation. We played the better football on the day. I don't like we created. I know the chance from Jorginho was a mistake, but the way we were getting into their final third was through our possession-based football and playing through the lines. The way Arsenal, a lot of their chances were from mistakes. And I know the goal we got was from mistake, but that wasn't the majority of our chances, unlike Arsenal. So for me, I did think we were the better team. I think if anyone deserved to win it, it was probably Spurs. But on the balance of maybe the chances both teams missed, you can maybe argue that a draw was a fair result. But for me, I think we played better, and I think we deserve a lot of plaudits.
You know what I love? Go on, sorry. Go on. No, you go.
Just to comment, I know you love your comparisons, boys, to last year. We had 35% possession at the Emirates last season when we lost 3-1. And you could argue that we're down to 10 men early doors or whatever, but we actually only had 7 shots in total. We had 13 shots this time. They had 22 shots last season. They were absolutely pounding us. Let's be honest about it. And they're all looking at these stats and they're thinking, yeah, we could just go and do that again. And they didn't do it again because we've got big Ange Postecoglou and we played Ange ball. And they were like, hang on a minute, what is happening here? And for large parts of the game, Sim, as you just said, they couldn't handle us. They actually couldn't. Where's Odegaard? He gets booked. Didn't see him after that. And just coming back on what you said earlier, Irish Hotspur, what you said earlier about Doggy, absolutely outstanding after he got booked. I mean, what an unbelievable performance considering the fact that he also got booked as well. So I do subscribe to that, Sim, as well. I do think we played better, but I just do think on the balance of play, 2-2 at Desmond is probably the right call.
I think not only a Doggy, but Bissouma as well. After he booked, just grew and grew and grew into the game.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave.
I think the biggest thing I take away from it is in years gone by with the old leadership group and the players that have been here for quite some time, over a decade, with stale sort of mentalities, they would have reverted to type and just shut up shop and try and damage limitation. But the fact that, we've now got a young, hungry squad, that's why we have that bounce back ability. We came back twice, in the North London derby, but we've also come back against who were the teams we came back against? Sheffield United, Burnley, other teams that have scored first against us. We have that bounce back ability now. And a lot of that, I think, is also down to the new leadership group, the fact that the mentality of it, the old leadership group in that game, they would have pulled people back into safe positions, etc. The new leadership group is still encouraging everyone to do things the right way. Like Romero, still trying to persist and play out from the back. And I think that's the biggest reason why we're getting these results this year is that back line. You look at someone like Vicario last year in both North London derbies, Lloris cost us them. Twice he went long with balls. When defence tried to pass it back to him to relieve a bit of pressure, they turned it over, scored off it. The one before that was a poor save that went underneath him that Gabriel Jesus tapped home. You look at Venom Vicario pulled off 2 massive saves, or 1 massive save against Gabriel Jesus, but also how good he is with the ball. Very rarely went wrong in that game. Constantly tried to do the right thing, playing out from the back. You got Van de Ven and Edozie being able to deal with that Saka threat down that side, where in years gone by, he's absolutely destroyed us. When he was up against Sessegnon, ran at him, shot, Lloris parried it into his own goal. He's been up against Ben Davies and people like that before. And now, where a lot of these clubs, and it could be the same this weekend against Liverpool with Mo Salah, where they were getting a lot of joy against us before, that's no longer happening. The fact that we've now improved the goalkeeper and the back line, we're now turning where we would have got defeats before into draws, and draws where we would have got before into wins. And I think the back line is what I come out most satisfied about, as well as the bounce back ability with the new leadership. That's what got us over the line in that game.
Yeah, it's not even that. It's just like in previous years, if you would have seen what happened in those first 20 minutes with the mistakes that we were making, with the pressure that we were coming under, any other Spurs team in the last 2-3 years would have just laid down and probably lost that game 2-3-0, reverted into their shells. But we have the kind of just bravery, the bravery that we had to just keep going, keep playing our football, keep trying to play out the back. And we got the rewards for it in the end. But my favorite thing about that game was every single time I've gone to the Emirates now, probably for the past 5-6 years, their stadium has been absolutely rocking. Absolutely rocky. You can't even hear the Spurs fans from the majority of the game. I didn't hear a peep out of them for pretty much from the 20th minute onwards. That stadium, you could hear a pin drop from the home fans, and all you could hear was the away fans. And I think that was very telling because they are usually very loud against us. And we shut them up. We shut them up on their own patch. And because they were so confident, so cocky, so arrogant coming into the game, they thought no chance in hell can any team come to the Emirates and try and play football and get a result without getting turned over. And we basically shut them up on the day. And I was loving every second of it.
Yeah, and I don't want to hit.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, buddy. I was going to say you are part. The team is a reflection of the manager. And it's so interesting to see Conte, the way Antonio was, the way we were with Antonio. Let's have it right. We were loving Antonio when he got us into that top four. That some of that counter-attacking football, smashing Norwich 5-0, smashing Villa 4-0, Leeds 4-0. We were playing some, smashing Newcastle, was it 5-1? We were doing some proper damage in that first season of Conte, and we were absolutely loving it. It got us into the top four, but we were. The fans, the players were a reflection of the manager. High tempo, high energy, high maintenance, if I can say that. And now you've got Ange here, who's completely calm. He's on the Emirates. Everyone's like blowing up, fires going off all over the gaff. He's got his hands in his pockets, lads. It's like, you're all right, how you getting on, mate? And it's just, and now we're playing calm. It's no panic. And Arteta. The reason why they panic and this is what they're doing. And Arteta is that, isn't he? Like crying on the side, whatever he's doing. At some point, he was getting involved in the play. Like when the ball was in play, he was almost screaming at the players, like right on the pitch and stuff. And it's like, that's what Conte used to do. So you start to reflect that. So I do find that quite interesting. And by the way, I'm not on your show a lot at all. And I know you guys go to all of the away games. I get to some of them where we met, as you know, at Wolves. But always, lads, always the away fans are absolutely magnificent. They are outstanding. Everywhere I go, where I've been, they've just been magnificent. And if we're watching at home on TV or wherever, you can always hear the away fans, lads. So, yeah, big up the away fans, man.
Yeah, and I also want to say for Arsenal, like a lot of the Arsenal fans blaming like the injuries for this result and the performance. But at the end of the day, like Rice comes off at half time and Jorginho comes on. Who signed Jorginho? That was Mikel Arteta who signed Jorginho in January. Who signed Kai Havertz for 65 million? That was Mikel Arteta. Who signed Jesus, who played on the left? That was Arteta. Reece Nelson is on the bench, who he gave a new contract to in the summer. That was Mikel Arteta. So I don't want to hear from Arsenal fans, oh, it was injuries, it was this and that. When that is his team, that is Arteta. That is you. You can't separate yourselves from these players that they were using because Arteta was the one who signed him. The difference is, let's say, if Romero, Van de Ven, or Udogie got injured, right, and Dyer and Davis comes in, that's different because Postecoglou didn't sign those players. Those aren't Postecoglou's players. If he has to use them, it's because it's not his fault he has to use those players. That's just the hand he's dealt. But Arteta, the only players he used are the ones he signed, so he trusts them. They're his players. So I don't want to hear.
Are you allowed to swear on your shows?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, you just swore. You said Dyer and Davis.
My apologies for my language. Let's hope we have to go back to this.
Watch your language,
But I'm just saying, like, I don't want to hear these excuses, like, from Arsenal fans, like when Arteta's the one who's brought these players in, and now they're complaining that he has to use them. That's not an excuse. You have to blame the manager for that. That's not an excuse for not getting the result. I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely spot on.
I'd argue they're not as good as everyone makes them out to be anyway. If you want, last year, name me another time where Tottenham, Liverpool, Man United, who also fell off, didn't really get it going to the end of the season, Chelsea as well, where a lot of teams have fallen away from that top four. That's why they were catapulted into a title race. Now that the likes of Tottenham are back, Liverpool are back, now you're seeing the real Arsenal. And yes, it reminds me a lot of what we were like under Conte last year, where we were getting the results. And a lot of us were like, oh, eventually it's going to click. And it never did. And I think they're in for the same sort of season this season. Now that other teams are back, it's a different Premier League to what it was last season. So this season will be a true barometer of how good they actually are.
And also another point.
For almighty humbling, those Arsenal fans, and I'm here for it.
And also another point I want to make to Arsenal fans about they're all saying like, oh, if Jesus puts that chance away, it's 2-0 and that changes the game. At the end of the day, Jesus, everyone knows Jesus is not a good finisher. Jesus misses so many big chances. He's the most inconsistent finisher in the Premier League amongst the top 6. And that's the difference when you've got someone like Jesus in that position and you've got Son in pretty much the same position in the second half, and he's a cool finisher, puts into the far corner because he's one of the best finishers in the Premier League, and those things make a difference. So they can't use that excuse, oh, if he puts it away, it's 2-0, it's a different game. Well, he didn't put it away because he's not a good finisher. It's more often than not in those positions, Jesus will fluff his lines, and we've seen that time and time again. And more often than not in those positions, Son is going to put it away, and that's what makes the difference between Son and Jesus in those positions. So again, I don't want to hear these excuses.
Dave, just quickly come back, Ben, if I can, with Dave. You just mentioned about kind of Liverpool being back and whatever. Points so far in the 2023 calendar, so the calendar year. Man City 71, whatever, whatever. Arsenal, elite Arsenal, absolutely God-given right to win everything. Elite Arsenal, 55. Liverpool, 55. Aston Villa, 55. Brighton Hove Albion, 53. Manchester United, 52. So just drink that in for a second, right? The reality of the situation is Liverpool, Villa, and even Brighton have got the same amount of points of Arsenal have won in 2023. So they're on a decline, aren't they, boys? They're on a decline, man.
100%.
100% they're on the
downfall is coming.
But I got to give props to you, Dave. You were the only one, you and Paul from Hippie Hotspur, that wanted Ange Postecoglou from the beginning and backed him right from the beginning. Basically, as soon as we were looking for a manager in the summer, you were like, Ange. Yeah. And no one wanted to buy into what you were saying. So big up to you, Dave. Unbelievable.
No, look, I appreciate it. Look, I only know of him because I followed what he'd done at Celtic and I seen the massive job that he'd done there. And I just knew if he could bring that to Tottenham with a lot of the new signings we had, and I knew with his style of football, a lot of the older players would have had to be shipped out. And I had many nights trying to convince you on him, Ben, late at night, showing you a message or two, trying to, get you behind him. But look, I'll be honest, I did think there was going to be a bit of a bedding in period. At Celtic, there was, right? They end up going out of the Champions League in the first season. And, they end up the first 5 games weren't great at Celtic. And a lot of Celtic fans were up in arms because a lot of the media were making fun of Ange Postecoglou when he first signed there. They were making fun of Celtic, for that appointment. But it was ultimately Celtic and Ange Postecoglou that had the last laugh. And once it clicked, he went on to dominate. He didn't do the treble in the first season, but that's what inspired him for the second season. And he went on to do that then in the second season. He's an absolute brilliant man manager. And what he actually does is he uses all the negatives as a positive within the dressing room and lays that down as the challenge and then gets people to rise to it. And he's an absolute superb manager at doing it.
Well,
go on, Sim. Go on. I was just going to say, in terms of like what you were saying, Dave, about you were surprised maybe that there hasn't been a bump in the road yet. I just think that's a testament maybe to the quality of our first 11 right now. Look, we haven't had many injuries and we've been lucky with that. But I think it's gone under the radar from a lot of fans, rival fans anyway, that our first 11 has got a lot of ability, like underrated ability. And I think it's a testament to how quickly they've been able to take Ange Postecoglou's instructions and play out on the pitch. And the fact they've got up to speed so quickly, because, if we had Dyer in that team, playing every week, or Højbjerg, or other players that are in our squad right now, if they were in our first 11 for these first 6 games, we wouldn't be seeing these results. So I think it's a testament to the team that Postecoglou has got in such an early time period.
Yeah, well, let's. It brings us on nicely, actually, to the next question. We'll start off with Lee on this one. And have your expectations changed from maybe the start of the season? Because when we cast your mind back to when we sold Harry Kane, everyone was like, "There's no chance of Champions League, Europa League, if we're lucky." So, having seen the first 6 games of Ange Ball now, have your expectations changed?
Well, a little bit like Dave with the Ange appointment. I wasn't the doom and gloomers around Kane leaving. I didn't want him to go. I knew he was going on June the 27th, and through various different actions that we have, like you guys do. So I knew he was definitely gone. But I didn't think that it was going to be the downfall. I didn't think that we were going to be bottom half of the table or 14th without Kane. I didn't expect us to cope just as well as we have, if I'm brutally honest. But I didn't think it was going to be a doom and gloom scenario. So on that point, my expectations haven't changed because they were quite high already. So when on Last One on Spurs, obviously I'm on Last One on Spurs all the time, and we talk quite often about stats. And I've got the blue book here, so Ricky's not going to be happy, but I've got my blue book here with my stats and stuff. And actually, I've done quite a lot.
Sorry, Ricky, but we're loaning the blue book for an hour.
That's it, representing. So if you want to get in the top 6, the average points total to get in the top 6 over the last 10 to 12 years in the Premier League is 62 points. But I'm bearing in mind, guys and viewers as well, we got 60 points last season. So we had the absolute shit show, and that is a proper swear word, sorry, of a season. 4 different managers, Stellini ball, bloody Conte ball, fights, deaths in the camp, horrible situations, all that stuff. And we still only missed out on Europa League by 2 points. Mental, right? 68 points gets you top 5 on average over the last 10 years in the Premier League. 72 points gets you top 4. And weirdly, because of a bit of an anomaly when 66 points got you top 3, it brings that top 3 down. The average of top 3 is only 73 points. So you've got to look at it, instead of looking at it from an emotional perspective and going, oh, we've got to beat them, or they got to win, or can we get 4, 6, 7 points more than what we did last season? And the answer has to be yes. It has to be under what we're seeing right now. And that will give us top 5. And top 5 will probably get you Champions League football. So my expectations haven't changed. Sorry for the long narrative, but just a bit of backup as to why. Mm-hmm. The reality is I think we get top 5. I predicted us to get top 5. I actually think maybe my expectations have changed a little bit on that from a top 4 point of view. But I think we get Champions League football. So my expectations on that side of things haven't changed. I honestly cannot see. And look, people might click this and at me, whatever. If I get this wrong, I cannot see us getting less than 68 points. I just cannot see it. That last season, lads and viewers, we lost 14 games. I just can't see us losing 14 games and the reason why I can't see it is, Sim, as you've already pointed out. And Dave, I think you mentioned earlier, we're going into the Liverpool game. We've already turned up United, and we've already avoided defeat at Arsenal, right? Which is 2 things that didn't happen last season. We can essentially, and I don't want this to happen, but we can afford to lose the rest of our home and away games against the so-called Big 6 and go and beat the lesser teams, which we kept losing to last season, and still get 72 points, which will hit top 4 easily. So I just can't see how we're going to lose 14 games. I can't see that. And I can't see how we're not going to get an extra 8 points from last season, given the fact that we were still in. I mean, even after that shit show, I think the Brentford. You have to remind me here, lads. We obviously lost against Brentford, but before losing against Brentford, I think we have Villa or something like that. It was a results where I think we lost to Bournemouth, didn't we? I think we lost to Bournemouth. Thinking, what on earth is going on? If you turn them results around, which I think under this team and under this manager and where we're at in terms of our momentum, you can easily change them results around. I just can't see us not getting 68 points as a minimum, Ben.
Fair enough. I mean, the thing, I mean, my expectations have changed a little bit. I kind of had us at 5th or 6th before, but now I think we can push the top 4 because of the way we started. But for me, it's just like, we've got a number of players in that starting lineup where if they get injured, I feel like we're screwed. Like if Basuma gets injured, Maddison gets injured, one of our centre backs get injured. And if any one of those players get injured for a sustained amount of time, I do feel that, we could go on quite a bad run. And that could be the detriment to us, but we can't predict injuries, can we? So we can't sit here and talk about injuries and what have you. But Dave, has your expectations changed?
Yeah, they have, to be brutally honest. Just on the injuries thing, just quickly, Ben, we're not going to get as many injuries as we had last year with the amount of games we had last year, quick and, in such a quick period of time, the amount of competitions we had to cover as well. We were out of the League Cup. We've only got 1 game a week up until the FA Cup. So, for me, the injuries I don't think will play a significant part as maybe it has done on the previous regimes. But look, my expectations coming into this season, no director of football, selling your star striker, I didn't know whether Ange was going to sort of rip out the old leadership group or not. And for me, I pinpointed that as one of the main things he needed to do, because that's why when you look at the amount of managerial appointments we've had, the amount of interns we've had to put in place, it stinks of a bad culture and a bad leadership. So he had to rip that out. I didn't know whether he was going to have the balls to do it or not, but he does. You know, and with the amount of new signings, the change in the goalkeeper, the backline, I thought there would have been a bedding in period at the start, and I thought eventually maybe halfway during the season it'd click and we'll get going. But I didn't expect to start this quick. So, of course, my expectations have changed a little. You know, putting Son up front, bringing Maddison in as the guy to supply him the chances, absolutely, you know, phenomenal piece of business. Because I was also, as much as I predicted, you know, Son would score your goals, I was looking around who's going to assist him, and Maddison has stepped up and done that. Yeah. So for me, when I look at it, I take Lee's point. I also looked at the points tally last year, and it's like, well, if we, you know, change a couple of them results, maybe we could get top four. But I think we're shooing for top four now. Originally, I had us to finish, you know, maybe just in one of the Europa League conference places, or maybe. But now I think we're definitely shooing for top four. But you come out of this game at the weekend unscathed, we're all of a sudden in a title race, whether we like it or not. I think we have to accept that. You know, you've got 3 big dogs already out the way, and you've been unbeaten. So I think everyone's expectations has changed, and I think we just have to do what Big Daddy Messiah Ange told us to do. You believe
title race, Dave? Title race? Come on, keep going. Title race.
Lee, look, if we get through unscathed against Liverpool, we're in the conversation. We have to be. How we handle that is up to us. But like I said, you just got to do what Ange says. It's up to you to believe, and it's up to the team to match it on the football pitch. So just play your part. That's all I say. Get strapped in for the ride.
Sim, has your expectations changed?
Well, at the beginning of the season, I had maybe our ceiling to be top 5. I thought maybe we can sneak into 5th if we get a bit lucky, like with the way that we have, with the fact that we got 1 game a week, and a lot of the teams around us, like Brighton and Villa and Newcastle, who got European football. And I didn't really see us finishing above Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, or Man City this season. But now, definitely looking how we've started, looking how other teams have started as well, looking how disarray Man United are right now. Their attack has been decimated through unsuspecting factors. So they're in a lot of trouble at the moment. Chelsea look completely off the pace. Newcastle don't really look like they're the same team as they were last season, and they've got games added in as well. I'm 100% looking at that top 4 now. I definitely think we can get into that top 4. No, I don't see the only thing that's stopping us really is injuries. I think if we can have this starting 11 pretty consistent for the whole season, and we can avoid injuries to key players, I think there's nothing stopping us getting in that top 4. I don't think anyone else. If I look at our starting 11, I don't look at United starting 11 or anyone else's, apart from maybe Arsenal, Liverpool, and City. I don't look at anyone else's starting 11 and think that's better than us. I really believe
the hierarchy got to help us out in January, though, don't they?
100%, because it's the problem with our first 11 is that there are such key players that are literally making this team function right now. Vicario, Van de Ven, Romero, Udogie, and Bissouma, and to an extent Maddison as well. I think all those 6 players, if even one of them picks up an injury, I think more seriously in the back lines, if Maddison picked up an injury, I still think we'd be able to score goals even without Maddison. Maybe we wouldn't have that creativity, but I still think we'd be able to get ourselves in positions where we're getting goals and we'll still be able to attack teams. But I think without Romero and Van de Ven or Udogie or Bissouma, I don't think we'd be able to defend as well. To be honest, and I think especially the back 2, that's a big issue, and a lot of for them. Yeah, it's Romero and Van de Ven. If Dyer's coming into that, I'm shit scared of that, to be honest. I really am. That's a big concern. So
what's interesting on that though? What's interesting on that though is that he had Ashley Phillips on the bench a couple of times before Dyer, and actually we all thought that actually it's because he was going to choose him over Dyer, but apparently Dyer had an injury that period, and ever since Dyer's come back fit, inverted commas, he's been on the bench, so he is going to be the backup. And actually, if it's Van de Ven that's injured, is he going to play Ben Davies as a left-sided centre back, or is he going to play a right-footed centre back in the left back position? Because that also cannot be Dyer, in my opinion. But we haven't look. I think Dyer's been an amazing servant for the football club, and I actually think he deserves to get a bit of a send off and go on his merry way, a little bit like Hugo Lloris, right? Because
I think you're about to have a fight with Dave, Lee.
Yeah, but to be fair, like, at the end of the day, I'm not saying I want him in the squad, Dave. To be fair, I don't. But
yeah, no.
What he's done up until the points and whatever, he's done a good service. So thanks very much, mate. Off you go. Great. But the problem that we have is that we are a booking, or we are an injury or a suspension away from Dyer and Davis at the back, and I think that is a problem. And the problem is we know this for a fact that Ange Postecoglou wanted another centre back. We know for a fact that is absolute factual. He's actually confirmed that. I actually thought we needed 3 in the summer. We only got 1 plus Ashley Phillips, so 1.5. I think we needed 3 in the summer. Tosin and Mickey van der Ven. And who was the other guy? I've forgotten his name. Sure, I shouldn't have forgotten his name. He was linked with us. The whole summer. I think we should have tried to sign all 3 of them. Obviously, we didn't. We only got 1. And it comes back to, you mentioned, Ben, the hierarchy. Look, the hierarchy have, I don't think they've got fans per se. They've got a lot of people that don't want them there. Some people that, not bothered. I think Ange has papered over some of them cracks, but we're still 1 or 2 short FC, aren't we? Let's be absolutely honest. Yeah. Now, going to another club, go and speak to another fans groups, and they might all say the same thing. Man United, they might say, "Oh, we're 1 or 2 short." City, but I don't know how. By the way, they've rested off their first team squad, and they've still got Guardiola playing, and it's ridiculous. But the point I suppose I'm making is that maybe it's our own club thing, maybe not. But the facts are that we are an injury and a suspension away from Dyer and Davis at the back, and that is not Angeable. Like that is not Angeable. Imagine that when we're playing this high line that we're playing. Oh, I mean, that's frightening, isn't it, boys?
Yeah, and I also think with Basuma, like if he was to pick up an injury, I feel like Basuma right now this season, he's become a problem for teams which I don't know how to deal with, because he breaks the lines with his ball carrying ability from deep, and what it does is it draws other players out of position because they have to come deal with him because they have to come and confront him. And what that does is it completely disorientates their back line, and it opens up the gaps and spaces for the likes of Maddison and maybe other players in the front line to exploit. Without him, without that ball carrying ability, I really believe our midfield is a lot easier to deal with, because it's going to be a lot do that.
Yeah, exactly.
When Bentancur's back, and hopefully he gets back to his best, then that's something. But without him, without that ball carrying ability, and without Basuma, like Højbjerg in that position, he's not capable of that. So all of a sudden, everything's being played in front of you again, and there's no one you're worried about taking you on. It's just you're worried about Højbjerg passing and moving. He's not really going to take you on and cause a problem in that field that you can't deal with. Whereas Basuma's doing that right now.
Sim, the only thing I'd say on that, and again, Dave, don't shoot me here, right? But the only thing I'd say on that is, under Ange Postecoglou, we have not seen Dyer, and we haven't seen Bentancur yet, and we haven't seen Højbjerg in that position other than the Fulham, which was a bit of a shit show, to be fair, because it made 9 changes. And so, I don't know, maybe with the amount of training that's been going on behind the scenes and with the whole atmosphere and the whole vibe now, I think that's the word everyone's saying, the whole vibe in the club, maybe they were putting a different performance. But I can't see. And look, Dyer might have been had an injury back end of last season or throughout the season. Look at Son. Son was rubbish. Let's have it right. He was absolute rubbish last season. Lots of people writing him off, not me personally. I absolutely love the bloke. But again, we didn't realise until close season, did we, lads, that he was injured. He come out and told us he was injured, playing through the pain barrier, whatever. Look at him this season, been absolutely world class, in my opinion. The finishing of the bloke is just a joke. Like, probably one of the best. I think, Sim, you said it. One of the best, if not the best finisher in the Premier League. So, you just never know. But that is the worry. And the biggest worry for me is if Ange had come out and said, no, I'm totally cool, Dyer's happy days, I'm with it, I'd have maybe a bit more relaxed because he knows what he's talking about, clearly. But he hasn't said that, has he? And he's kind of, he definitely wants another centre-back.
Look, with Dyer, I have no confidence with him stepping in. Even if he did have an injury last year, he was atrocious under Jose Mourinho at centre-back anyway. So, there's no sort of injury excuses there for him. He's just not good enough. If he played in that North London derby, he would have cost us a goal. We would have lost that 100% for sure. And I take your point that maybe, we are 1 or 2 players short. I'm not saying we're going to win the title, but I think, can we sneak our way into a race? Because mainly it's a 38-game season this season. We've got no other distractions. So a lot of them injuries may not actually happen that maybe we think will happen. And also, we've got January to strengthen the squad again. But I don't think Ange is targeting the Premier League this season. I think personally Ange, is looking more at next season when we can get another summer window behind ourselves. And I think if we can keep Ange here for the next 4 years with the style of football we're playing, I think we have a unique opportunity. You look at the longevity of Guardiola at Man City. Is he going to stay there much longer? Is he going to look for a new challenge? Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool, will eventually he look for a new challenge if they don't sort out the recruitment process and the DOF and stuff there for him. So, if we can get Ange to last the 4 years and they have to make managerial changes, all of a sudden, we're the best team in the league with the most exciting football. So, for me, I think we should be looking at this a little bit longer term than just beyond this season.
Dave, don't give City any ideas about Ange and Pep. Don't give
Liverpool any ideas as well.
I think there was an article published, I saw on X the other day, that in May 2022, City were sniffing around.
I saw that as well. Yeah,
and I thought, that was quite interesting as well. But hands off our big Ange.
It was Guardiola that recommended him to Celtic. That's how he got the Celtic job. So. He's well in there with the City ground from his time at Melbourne and stuff like that. I've not looking at him for sure.
So it's safe to say that expectations are high here at Tottenham, and that's what we love to hear. That is what we've
been moaning about for the last 3 years.
Exactly. We finally got it back at our club. Finally.
Aiming high, then succeed aiming low.
Exactly. I'll be honest, boys. I think we can win the Champions League this season.
Can you imagine handball across Europe? Can you imagine handball right across Europe? That'll be some roller coaster.
I cannot wait to be back in the Champions League playing handball. Those nights are going to be special. But let's talk about the game this weekend. It's another game which I absolutely hate, along with away at Arsenal. Liverpool, where we've beaten them twice since 2012 at our home ground, and it's nowhere near good enough. But it's always one of these games where we play well, we just miss easy chances consistently, time and time again. But Dave, can we beat them this weekend?
Look, boys, Ange, the way he manages, you stack the records up, he's there to mold them down. That's exactly what's going to happen. Look, with Liverpool, I get it, they're back, right? They're playing some lovely stuff. Szoboszlai, what a signing. But McAllister, they're using him as a holding midfielder. They're playing him out of position, and they can be got at down the middle. You can still get at them behind Trent Alexander-Arnold. So for me, I definitely think there's opportunities there for us. But Ben, like you said, it's up to us whether we take them. Under Jose Mourinho, when we were top of the league, Steven Bergwijn missed a couple of sitters, and that season ended up being derailed. So Champions League final, they bet us as well, end up ruining my life. So, they do have a history of sort of derailing everything that Tottenham Hotspur sort of start to build. But like I said, we haven't beaten them at the new place. Ange will relish that. The atmosphere from the North London derby coming out of their unscathed will carry over. A 5:30 kickoff gives plenty of people time to wake up, get a few beers into the system. It's going to be absolutely raucous, that atmosphere. And with that atmosphere behind the team, I think they're going to respond to it. Look, the one maybe doubt I have is, obviously, there's a reason why I call them Liverpool, because they tend to get the benefit of the decisions down the years against us. But if Adoji can keep Mo Salah quiet, that'll be absolutely unbelievable. That gives us a massive chance. And the one thing I'm worried about, though, there was one ball that was played over the top of Pedro Porro's head in behind for Gabriel Jesus in the first half. You go back and look at Liverpool down the years, they're experts at that sort of ball. They've done it time and time and time again. So, if he goes with Porro has to stay switched on and be alert to that, because I wouldn't be surprised if Kloppy, Stroppy Kloppy at the minute, if he's pinpointed Darwin Noodles to come off the back of him and try and overpower him and get a couple of chances that way. So that maybe makes me a bit nervous, but I think this is going to be a right old classic. Two teams, end to end, back and forth, and it's just who wants it more on a day. And I think this is the time we can, get rid of that hoodoo against Liverpool. Richarlison off the bench, winner, prue, chicken dance everywhere.
And I'm looking at it, Dave, after Liverpool, if we can beat them, Luton away, Fulham at home, Palace away, Chelsea at home, Poch's return, Wolves away, Villa at home, up until Man City away. I mean, we've got some nice favourable fixtures after this game. So, I mean, how long can we stay unbeaten if we go and beat Liverpool?
If you look at there's a period of games there, I think it's already started. We've 8 games where we don't actually have to travel outside London. So we're not clocking up miles either. So, if we can remain unbeaten there, Who knows? Who knows, Ben? Look, I'll just take every game as it comes at this point. I never thought I'd be in this situation as quick as I am this season. I'm enjoying it while it lasts. If we can get a result against Liverpool, I think we do Luton. Chelsea at home, I'll be there. It's a couple of days after my birthday, so I'll bring the luck of the Irish with us. We'll beat them there, and then who knows where we can take it, Benji. Look, just get us to January in the race, and then it's over to the hierarchy. Do your part.
Yeah, absolutely. Lee, what are you thinking? Can we beat Liverpool this weekend?
I think we can. I mean, I'm just looking at some of the form guide. They've won their last 5 on the trot, but you haven't start having a look at what they've done in the Premier League. Like they've played Bournemouth, right? I think they went down to 10 men, and they beat them 3-1. Newcastle was absolutely freakish. They were 1-0 down for large parts of that game and ended up winning that game, which was probably a little bit like Sheffield. As well. Yeah. To be fair, with 10 men, Aston Villa, that seems like a decent. They're a good side this year. Villa, they've smashed them 3-1, 3-0. But then they've beaten Wolves, they've beaten West Ham, 2 rubbish teams to be. Let's have it right. West Ham, Wolves, Villa, Newcastle, Bournemouth. You're not really looking at any of them teams to turn Liverpool over, regardless of form, are you? Then you look at our fixtures: Manchester United, Arsenal. And Burnley away being tricky, but Manchester United and Arsenal, and we're still unbeaten, as Dave said earlier. So I think we're going into this. If this was away, I'd be like, pretty much like, okay, like we're probably going to mess it up. And look what happened last year. We went 3-0 down about 15 seconds. It was an absolute disgrace. But we still had the guile and the resilience to come back. I actually do think last season has carried over some of that resilience that we're still seeing today. We were 2-0 down at Bournemouth and we came back 3-2. We did it at Liverpool. I know we ended up losing the game 4-3, but there was a few occasions where we had been doing that under the Conte era. So I'll give him credit for that. I think with the Liverpool game at home, I think it was under Conte the first time round. I think we played a 3-5-2. Sessegnon had Salah in his pocket. We drew 2-2, and Dembele played that game, if you remember. And it was
when Ali and Dembele played in midfield, right? We had injuries, so many injuries, and we played them off the park.
Exactly, man. We played exactly that. We were brilliant, but we were brave that day because we had to be brave. And then the reverse fixture last season, obviously at home, was absolutely terrible. Dire mistake FC, along with Lloris and just mistakes all over the gaff. It was just a joke. I sit in the South Stand, as you boys know, and half time I went down for a beer and a wee. And I thought, do I actually go back? I mean, it was that bad. It was that bad. And I never do that. And actually, to be fair to us, in the second half, we played a lot better. Again, it was a classic trait of Tottenham last season, wasn't it, under Antonio Conte? So Kulusevski come out, but and we ended up still losing the game. But it was a valiant loss. Well, let's have it right. I am sick of valiant losses. I am sick to death against this lot. Now, I travelled to the Champions League final, like you boys, and it was a massive, it was over within, 30 seconds, literally over. And I'm fed up with valiant. Dave, you mentioned about Bergwijn. He hit the post, didn't he? He went one wide and went at the post as well. Situation when we got it back to 2, was it 1-1, I think, or 2-2? 1-1, and then Teeth, what's his name? Him, yeah. He scored in the 97th minute or whatever from a corner. It's just classic Liverpool. I'm sick of it, lads and viewers. So we deserve one. I think the last time we actually played not brilliantly well, because we played really well and got 2-2, but when we played really well and smashed them, and it was their sliding doors moments when we played them against Wembley. We beat them 4-1, and then the defender was all over the gaff. Kane, Dele Alli, prime Dele Alli, Son smashing them up. So I think Son, the form he's on and what he's showing, and the actual team as a whole, I get your point about that ball over the top situation, but I don't think we're going to be worried about that. I think Liverpool need to be worried about us going forward and keeping the ball, because they have not played anybody. They're losing to Leicester, by the way, as somebody said in the comments, but they are losing to Leicester tonight in the Carabao Cup. And I don't think they've played anybody of note yet. And this for them, no pundit will come out and say it, no ex-Liverpool player will come out and say it, and no one will come out from the camp and say it, but they are worried because they're coming to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club and we are absolutely on flames. And I think this is the time, Ben. I think we can turn them over. I think we will turn them over. We better do, because I'm buzzing for it. I tell you, I'm absolutely buzzing.
I'm loving the confidence. I really am. But Sim, like, what is it about this fixture where we always play well, but we just miss sitter after sitter after sitter? You look at Højbjerg's one from a couple years back, or was it last year? I can't remember. Lo Celso, the Bergwijn ones you're talking about. I mean, I'm sure Sonny has had a few as well.
Sissoko,
yeah.
Everyone stuck it over the bar. I mean, the penalty situation, we missed the penalty, then we missed the rebound. You know, Alderweireld as well, like the own goal. I mean, it's just like a calamitous. Do you remember? I mean, we are cursed, right?
And you got Jota, you got the Jota one last season, even. Like, it just happens every single
year. Just as you're
year.
talking, Liverpool have equalised, by the way, Cody Gakpo.
Oh, classic. Who scored? Jota.
Gakpo.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, I don't know what it is about this fixture that we're always like consistently cursing this fixture, but obviously that gives us a bit of trepidation when you're facing it. But then again, we're always cursed in not Emirates, and we went to Emirates and got a draw. So hopefully this could be the season where we're starting to banish all these hoodoos which have lasted for many, many years. For me, I've been super impressed with Liverpool this season. I don't agree with Lee about them having played no one. I think they've had a not difficult start to the season, but playing the majority of the game against 10 men against Newcastle, a good Newcastle team, and coming away with a victory, having dug deep and made sure they didn't really concede too many chances and actually defended really, really well in that game. And then actually it was a tactical masterclass, ended up winning 2-1. Villa side, who were quite good away from home and a very good counter-attacking team, and they completely wiped the floor with them. West Ham, who went to Brighton and battered them 3-1 with an amazing counter-attacking performance, but they didn't have any answers to what Liverpool had in their final third. So for me, I'm actually a lot more worried about Liverpool's front three than I am Arsenal's. I think their front three is a lot more on form and are looking a lot more vibrant right now. And they've got a lot more options as well. Literally, Arsenal, I'm looking at their front three, and apart from Saka, I wasn't really too worried about anyone else. Like if and obviously he's the one who got involved in both goals, but if he wasn't really doing anything, I'm not really worried. I wasn't really worried about Jesus or Nketiah really scoring or doing much. But if I'm looking at Liverpool's front line at the moment, they've got Salah, Nunes, Diaz, Jota, Gakpo. All five of them I'm worried about. All five of them are serious players.
Man, you're putting the mood down. What's happening?
I'm being honest. But no, let me land. Let me
bigging up Liverpool season. He has to die on this sword.
Let me finish my point. When I look at that midfield battle and I look about them, as Dave said, them playing McAllister in the 6 and how their midfield shapes up, they're probably going to play McAllister, Curtis Jones, and Szoboszlai in that midfield three. I think Maddison and Basuma will be licking their lips at that. Yeah. I think they'll be looking at it thinking we can 100% dominate that midfield battle. We can overrun them. Like Basuma isn't going to be worried about anyone. Like at least with Arsenal's midfield, like Basuma maybe struggled a bit to take on Rice in that first half, and maybe he's got maybe that was something to look at. But I think when he's looking at midfield, who's stopping him? Who's stopping Basuma getting beyond that midfield and opening up the space? Who's stopping Maddison from flirting in between the lines? And who's gonna mark him out the game? I'm not seeing anything. And then Son as well. We know how Liverpool like to play. They like to play that high line. They're going to leave space. And Son sort of showed at the Emirates what he can do with that space. And Son always has a good game against Liverpool as well. He always seems to have chances and always seems to exploit Liverpool's weaknesses. And I definitely back him to do that 100%. But I back him to do that again 100%. I think Son can definitely have a good game in there. But it's going to be about because I think our defense is in for a tougher time than Arsenal in this game. So it's going to be about how our defense can deal with Liverpool's front line. If we can stop Szoboszlai and McAllister from playing their football, because I feel like, despite the fact I said they've played good opposition, which I believe they have, I think that the teams they've played have allowed McAllister and Szoboszlai to basically dominate the game and control it with their ability on the ball. I don't think Basuma, Sarr, and Maddison are going to give them that same freedom. So it's going to be about how we can stop them controlling the game and then hurt them going the other way. And I think as well, Porro and Udogie, they had a tough game against Arsenal. I think they're going to have a very tough game again if it's going to be Diaz and Salah on the wings as well. So there's going to be on them to make sure that to make sure they're not gaining that much influence when they're taking them on. They're going to have to win their individual battles. But there are definitely tactical advantages for us, especially if I see in that midfield three. 100% there are tactical advantages. I think Kulusevski on the right-hand side could maybe have some joy. But I think, obviously, the main things, I think Maddison, Son and Basuma are going to be our main three players. And also, it's going to be a big element trying to stop Darwin Núñez because he's in great form at the moment. He's a physical specimen. But we've got Romero and we've got Van de Ven. So they're going to have to be on their A game. But I think that midfield three, I think it's going to be, if we can win that midfield battle, there's no reason why we can't win the game.
Cuti Romero is going to eat Darwin Núñez alive. I'm telling you. And the midfield battle is going to be won by Spurs. I'm actually looking at this, and this is Liverpool's biggest test of the season so far, 100%. And I've seen the last couple of Liverpool games, and they give up chances willy-nilly. At the beginning of that West Ham game, they could have conceded 2 goals in those first 20, 30 minutes. And if they do that with us and they give us those chances, Sonny ain't going to be so... thankful to Liverpool like West Ham were. So I'm going into this with the maximum amount of confidence that I've gone into probably in any Liverpool game in the past couple of years. Sorry, what were you going to say, Lee?
I was going to say, because he's playing tonight, I can't pronounce his name. Is it Gravenbach? Yeah, he's playing tonight, and I thought he was signed as a number 6. So if he plays tonight and he's got some minutes under his belt, you never know. He might end up playing him as a 6 and moving McAllister up. And that just gives them something slightly different to where you come from, Sim. So I'm only pulling you like that. I think it's very difficult to be really, really confident against Liverpool because they are a good side. We know that. But I do think that we're going to win. I do. I didn't think we'd beat Arsenal. I think it was going to be 2-2. But I think we've got... Like Sim, you said, we've got the midfield, we've got the firepower, and we can keep them out. So we've got all the ingredients. How do we handle the occasion? How do we handle the atmosphere? It's at home. I honestly, you guys have all been there, man. The atmosphere is just an absolute joke. The limbs against Sheffield. Sheffield United, for crying out loud, just got rinsed by Newcastle. But I was almost crowd surfing. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say it. It was absolutely unbelievable. And I just think that atmosphere is going to be rocking again, like Dave said on Saturday, under the lights, under the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, watching Ange Ball against a side that we notoriously are cursed and don't like to win against. I think we can do it. So I'm backing the boys. I think
the first 20 minutes going into that is crucial. You look at Tottenham, and it hasn't just been this year, it's last year as well. Our second halves are so much stronger than the first halves. And I think when you look at the big games this year, first 20 minutes against Man United, nervous, gave up a couple of opportunities, but brought our way into the game. You look at the Arsenal game, the exact same sort of pattern. And I think, it might happen against Liverpool, but there's a golden opportunity for us if we can start well to take control of the game. Because Liverpool give up a lot of chances early on. Lee, open that blue book of yours and get the pen ready. I've got a stat for you, my man. So Liverpool have gone behind now 5 times this season already. So they are used to going behind. So if we can nick an early goal, we take control of that game, and who knows where it can take us. So that first 20 minutes is going to be absolutely crucial.
But the reality is really interesting. They go behind. So do we. So do we. We also go behind. So do we.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. That's the thing. But also, you've got to also give respect because they're 18 games unbeaten. You got to realize that this is a team that is like this isn't people.
What you're saying, a loss is coming then. They're due a loss.
They could definitely be due a loss, 100%. But you also, I think, have to realize that people are brandishing Liverpool with the brush of last season after a poor season and thinking that's the Liverpool coming to the Tottenham Stadium. Yeah. It isn't. It's the Liverpool of the last 10 games of last season, where I think they won 9 of them, and they've won 5 of the last first 6 games this season.
You were in a Liverpool top, Sim.
Huh?
You were in a Liverpool top.
No, look, I have to give respect to the opposition when I see how good. Look, people got to respect the job that Klopp has done there. He's been in he's built one of the best Liverpool sides that we've ever seen, one of the best Premier League teams we've ever seen. And I know they had a bad season, but Klopp, if anyone knows how to run City close, it's Jurgen Klopp. And if anyone knows how to get a team consistently winning, apart from Pep, it's Jurgen Klopp. And I think that coming into the not necessarily this game, but I'm saying more in general this season, I think Liverpool are very, very serious challengers to Man City, and I think they've shown it. And I don't see why people should be surprised with that, how good Liverpool can be. And I know maybe they're going to be open, but so are we. And Liverpool will know how to exploit that as well. So we've got to be very, very careful going to this game that we're not just obviously look, we've got to play our game 100%, and whatever happens. If we get battered, it happens, and that's the risk we've got to take, just like we did at the Emirates. But I'm just saying, I think Liverpool's going to be a tougher challenge than Arsenal, in my opinion.
Score prediction, Sim?
I'm going to go 2-2 again. I think another draw. I think it's going to be a close game. I think we're going to stay unbeaten. I think I'll be a positive result, in my opinion. I think you stay unbeaten. You come away with 2 games still unbeaten with a couple of points. And I think we can still definitely hurt them going the other way. But I think it's going to be a tough game. So 2-2.
Lee, score prediction?
I'm going to go with 3. I'm going to go 3-1. Tottenham, obviously. But just to echo what you just said there, Sim, if we do come away with a draw, I don't think that's a bad result at all. I'm not sitting here saying, I'm not being an arrogant Arsenal fan about, we're going to batter them and all that. Not at all. I'm just more confident because we're at home. And I think that this is a bigger test. This is their biggest test that they've had in the season so far. But there will be goals, and there's going to be space in behind us, and we've conceded. We've only kept 2 clean sheets, haven't we? To be fair, but against Bournemouth and Manchester United as well. Manchester United could have had 3 or 4 in the bloody first half. Let's be honest. So we know that we're going to give away chances, which is why I think we get goals. Even though I think our defensive actions, Sim, you have to correct me on this. I think our defensive actions under Ange. First 6 games under Conte was the same, wasn't it? I think you put a stat up in the show that you did in the week 62 or something. Which is ridiculously the same considering how defensive we were. So I think we're going to win Ben 3-2. But again, just to be clear, if we're
giving them one more goal now, Lee. You're giving them one more goal.
I'm sorry, don't say 3-1. Sorry, I wrote 3-2 on my pad and changed my mind. Yeah, 3-1. Sorry. I think we're going to win 3-1. But I think if we do get a draw, if it ends up being a draw, I won't be coming away sad as long as we keep playing the way we play, which I think we will. And that's why I think they won't be able to live with us. And I think this is going to be the game that everyone does go, wow. Because Liverpool are the media darlings. We all know that. And I think this is going to be the game that everyone goes, wow, okay, here we go. I mean, just for a bit of fun, in our record points season of 86 points under Poch, 16-17 season, we drew with Liverpool at home 1-1. So let's hope we can better that result, because that's what I'm going for this year. I'm going for our record points total in the league.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Dave, what's your prediction?
Look, heavy metal football versus rock and roll football. I think rock and roll football will prevail. I'm going to go with 2-1 Tottenham. I think we have enough in the locker to be able to turn Liverpool over. Like I said, we don't go in there worrying about teams anymore. We go in there concentrating on ourselves and what we can do. And I think we can turn them over. I really do. Look, with what Sim is saying, I agree. You have to respect Liverpool to a certain degree. However, I do agree with Lee. They haven't been tested yet by a top 6 side, and a lot of our fan base will also say the same thing. So let's see how good their bounce back ability is against the better teams. Ours is proven, theirs isn't. So this will be the measure of it this weekend, and I think it all hinges on how fit Maddison and Son are. But I'm confident 2-1 Tottenham.
Yeah, I kind of agree with everyone here, to be honest. There are a lot of good points made, but I'm going to go 3-2 to Spurs. I think it's going to be a crazy game of football. I really do. I think there's going to be chances at either end. I think Spurs are going to start strong, actually, in this game, with Liverpool giving up a few chances early on and take the lead early. But it's just about how we manage the game afterwards, and if we can contain Liverpool. I don't think we'll be able to contain Liverpool for the whole game, hence why I've gone for us to concede 2 goals. But I do think that we're going to have the clinical edge with Heung-min Son up front. And I think we're going to keep feeding him through in behind with the high line that Liverpool play. And I think we're going to win the midfield battle as well, with Bissouma coming up against, Szoboszlai and Endo potentially, or McAllister. But I really do think we've got the beating of them in midfield. But it's just about if we can contain their front line, which is very strong. So look, it's going to be a great game of football for the neutral. It's going to be a very up and down game of football for us in that stadium, but I'm looking forward to it, man. I really am. So I'm going 3-2.
I'm looking forward to the weekend for sure. I mean, somebody puts in the comments there, Alejandro Rissins talks about Brennan. Will he be available? And I think that's another important one. Sim, you've done some awesome tactical stuff against before the Arsenal game with Brennan Johnson coming in, and obviously it was proved right that he did start. For me, I would start the exact same team that started against Arsenal, and that's no disrespect to Manor Solomon, but I think maybe a bit later on with his trickery might be better. But in behind that high line for me, Brennan Johnson, Kulusevski with them out balls, and ultimately Son in behind, Pedro playing balls through, Basuma taking runs through that midfield, and Maddison pulling the strings. Oof, I might change my score prediction, boys.
Last chance to change it.
I think it will be a good game, though. I think it will be a brilliant game.
Absolutely.
The fans will be the winner.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the fans have been the winners every single game for Spurs so far. We have been so loud, home and away, every single game. Even in that Fulham game, when we went out of the cup, it was electric atmosphere. But let's go on to the last topic of the panel. And now, do we have our own class of 92 brewing here at Hotspur Way? We've got Josh Keeley. We've got Alfie Dorrington. We've got Charlie Sayers. We've got Matthew Craig, Niall John, Iago Santiago, Pape Matassar, Jude Sunsop Bell, Alejo Valiz, Jamie Donnelly. I mean, this academy seems to be brewing some really good talent at the moment. Lee, would you go as far to say we got our own little class of 92 brewing at the moment?
Maybe. I mean, I did watch the highlights the other day of 2-0 victory over Stoke, which was pretty good. I mean, I thought, is that what's been clear? I mean, obviously, good friend of mine, John from the Lily White Rose, he watches all the academy football and gives me some good knowledge about that sort of stuff as well. I don't watch too much of it, but I did watch the Stoke the other day, and I think what's the biggest change for me, fundamental change, is that they're playing like the first team. So they're playing like the pathway to the first team, which, to me is just completely, that's how it should be. And it never was under the previous managers before, after Poch left. So that's really, really encouraging for me. When you say some of them names, would they get a chance in the first team? I think under this manager, they probably will. They might and probably will. And I think that's really encouraging as well. I mean, Donnelly is outstanding. He's got an absolute
Harry Kane regen, mate.
He's on
I mean, absolutely fantastic. And you've got Susot Bell. If I've got your name wrong, sorry, I can't pronounce it. But again, he was pulling the strings and pulling defenders and stretching defenders the other day in the highlights that I watched. So, I think we've got an excitement back around the academy players. And there is a pathway to the first team. And I think that's really, really important. So probably not quite yet, because they need to start winning some stuff together as a group. I think the class of 92, there was 5 of them, or maybe 5 or 6 of them. They won the youth cups together. They won the trophies together. They had that, that bond. And then basically Sir Alex just lifted them up and put them into the first team. So there's a bit of way to go, but maybe the first seeds, Ben, of seeing our own club. Maybe it won't be class of 92. Maybe it might be the class of 27. Don't know, 25. Yeah. Maybe the class of 25. Don't know.
Dave, but 100% record with the under-21 so far, 7 games won in a row in all competitions. I've been watching a lot of the highlights, and it's impressive stuff. I mean, Jamie Donnelly really does look like he's taken a lot of inspiration off Harry Kane, and you're just seeing these players just flourish and getting the numbers consistently. How excited are you about this academy group at the moment?
Look, I'm very excited. I've been speaking about this class of 92 all summer long on my channel. I'm very excited about what we've coming up. This is a league that we got relegated out of last season, but due to rule changes, we're back in it, and now we're absolutely dominating it. But that's down to the style of football. The way that we play. A lot of a Premier League 2 academy football, it's sort of standoffish. It's not really competitive, and Spurs have changed that up in that regard with the high press and looking to win the ball back. And then obviously, once we do that and the work rate shines through, then it's about the quality, and the quality is proven to be there. And you look at a lot of that under-21 squad, and this is where I slightly disagree with Lee on it, is a lot of them are on the young side of 21. So we still have time to develop them and get them through. And a lot of them players were a part of the success last season of the under-17s and the under-18s. And when you look at this season, top of the league, that looks set to continue. Still in the cup after a late dramatic fight back against Sunderland, winning 3-2. And then Colchester, a team that we struggled with the likes of Dyer, Davies, Session, Doherty, Gedson, Fernandez, we went out to penalties to. These kids had them chasing shadows all game long in the Football League trophy, thumping them 5-0. They couldn't get near them. So for me, I think a lot of them are actually supremely talented. And I think that Wayne Burnett has done a very good job with them. But also you look at the under-18s, one loss this season at the very first game. They've won every game since as well. And they're stacked with the likes of Mikey Moore, Oliver Iro, Tyrese Hall, people like that still to come true. Now, where there's a pathway is, and there hasn't been in years gone by, is that I think we are looking at bringing some of these guys through, or keeping the pathway clear for some of these guys to come through. And the reason why I say that is when you look at previous years, we've got barely any academy players loaned out. The ones that we didn't see a future for with, we terminated in the summer. So we've got players that are at the club, and I think the club are looking at. And the reason why I say that is you look at the price of homegrown players now, the premium that's on them. That premium is only getting higher and higher and higher. Soon we're going to be priced out the market of homegrown players. So we now have to start producing our own. And there's been a big emphasis on that, I think, because when you look at the amount of changes we made to the academy system with Paratici coming in here, the way he brought in the scouts to be able to identify talents from abroad, from other academies in and around England as well, bringing them into our academy. When you look at the payment structure, all that changed. Dean Rastrick, who carried on from John McDermott's philosophy, was about paying the players as little as you can and keeping them hungry. But Paratici changed that, and he changed the payment structure. And it's like, well, in order to have the best sort of academy products and drag it up to the standards of what other academies are at in England, you have to start paying these guys what they're worth to keep them here, to sign them on the dotted line. And also the fact that I think that a lot of them have been promised, or a pathway has sort of been laid out to them. That's why they brought in Andy Skolden. That's what his job is, to find a pathway from the under-21s into the senior team. The amount of money they invested into scouts, like I said. And it was one of the first things Paratici done when he came in here, was getting improved funding for the academy to drag it up to standard of other clubs. So there's been a lot of heavy investment into that academy. And the amount, a lot of the players, Mikey Moore, Dorrington, Donnelly, they've all signed long-term contracts. They've committed to Tottenham long-term. When you go through some of the contracts that are coming up, let's start with the goalkeepers. Lloris is up this season. Forrester's up at the end of the season. Brandon Austin. So that clears the pathway for someone like Josh Keeley or Luca Gunter to come in as a number 2. You go into centre-back, you got Eric Dyer's contract up at the end of this year. Davies up in 2 years' time. Joe Roden won't be Davies won't be renewed after 2 years. Joe Roden looking to sell. Tanganga, I think we're probably looking to sell. If we do qualify for Europe, that triples the amount of games we have. Yes, I think we'll go and sign one more centre-back, but I think the plan after that is Phillips and Dorrington to sort of fill out the squad. And I know people say, well, what about getting them out on loan? But you can still play them in under 21 games if they're not being used for the senior team. When you go into midfield, Perisic, he's on his way out. Højbjerg, his contract is coming up. So that clears the way for Alfie Devine out on loan. Someone like Donnelly, who, by the way, started out as a striker, but because of injuries last season in the academy, he ended up playing centre mid, right mid, left mid, cam, striker, everywhere to fill in for the team. And his output never changed in terms of goals and assists. And you look at him this season, he's absolutely on fire. I call him the Dominator because he's already got 5 goals, 7 assists in 7 appearances, but it's also the work rate out of possession. And if some of our injuries keep coming, he could very quickly find himself, in and around the first team. I think Sun Bell has been absolutely amazing down that right-hand side. What a signing he was. So I do think when you look at it, there is a pathway for them to be able to get in here with the amount of contracts that are up. I think you've got, 14, 15 contracts up over the next 2 years, and a lot of them are actually dead wood, and a lot of them make our homegrown quota. So I think the plan is they'll end up going. Some of these guys will be dragged up. given an opportunity with the likes of Europe, FA Cup, League Cup, and Premier League next season. And I think then it saves us having to dip into the market and spend hundreds of millions of pounds on homegrown players, like what Arsenal had to do with Declan Rice. But yet we signed Basuma for a fraction of the price, and he's 10 times the player than what Declan Rice is. And I just I think that's the future of the club. When you look at what we've done since Paratici came here, and I know I've had a lot of criticism about me calling him the Don. Look, that's only me sort of play acting, but I did like his recruitment, and he's lowered the average age of the first team. But also, they've thrown a lot of money into that academy, getting the structure in place and everything else. And I think the plan is the boldest of the squad with some of the class of '92 we've got coming through. And I haven't even gone on about the under-18s. Mikey Moore, who'll be a cert to get into the Tottenham team in the future. He's that good. Ollie Iro. So, you know, I think combined with a couple of signings and some of these youngsters, there's your squad going forward. Young, hungry, energetic, ready to win. That's Tottenham's plan.
I absolutely love that.
Mate,
love
Dave, it's absolutely insane knowledge. And by the way, Paratici is the Don, mate. He might have done some wrongs back in, but he's been absolutely brilliant for Tottenham Hotspur.
All Dons have a bit of criminal activity, don't they?
That's what making the Don.
Exactly. And Dave, that speech just now just made me so excited because I was actually chatting to Sim. I think it was yesterday or a couple of days ago. Tickets are out to see Spurs Chelsea under 21s at Stevenage on Monday night, and I think we're going to go. The tickets are £5, and I am definitely going to go because I mean that speech has just confirmed it in my mind. 100%, I'm going.
They're an unbelievable watch. Unbelievable. They play very similar to Ange Postecoglou, like Lee alluded to. The formation is slightly different. They play a 4-2-3-1, and they don't play the inverted wing backs. But Sunsup Bell, Donnelly, people like that, they'll have you out your seat. They smashed Colchester, a team that a lot of our big professional players on 80 grand a week struggled with under Pochettino. That's telling a lot about them, in my opinion.
Was it Colchester's first team?
Yeah. It's the EFL trophy. So the under-21s are put into a group stage with teams from League 1 and League 2. And then, you know, they battle out amongst themselves for a trophy. That's a competition we struggle in. We've only won one game in that over the last few years. And this year we went out first game, smashed Colchester up 5-0. So who knows where we can go with it.
That's incredible. But Sim, I was speaking to you about this the other day, the under-21s. You were saying maybe it's important to not put too much pressure on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think calling them the class of 92 and like just saying they're going to look, I think it does seem to be a bit of a golden generation, to be fair, when it comes to our academy, because I can't remember a time when we've been so excited about so many different academy players at any one time. And I, for one, they're also very, very excited about a lot of the prospects and how they're playing. And
so me and you were gassed about Lee Barnard. Don't lie.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. There's also been players that we've talked up and given like big expectations, like Troy Parrott, for example. I know he could still be a good player, and he's played for Ireland, and he is a good player in his own right. But I think we put him under a lot of pressure, expecting him to be the next big thing. And when he did get the first team opportunities, never really did it. And then all of a sudden, you got fans criticizing him, saying he's never going to be good enough. All these kind of things. And I think it's important not to put too much pressure on these young players who need to find their own way and their own pathway. But for sure, like.
Can I just come in on that quickly, Sim? I think the problem in years gone by is there wasn't a pathway for them. So we've ended up loaning them out to continue their development. But where we've loaned them out to, don't play any similar way of what Tottenham playing. We haven't been able to give them an opportunity in amongst our best players to see if they're actually good enough. And what's ended up happening is they've got lost on their loan moves. They picked up a lot of long-term injuries. In Troy Parrott's case, a lot of long-term injuries on loan moves, you know, and stuff like that. And I think it's a bit different this time is you look at the amount of contracts up in 2024 and 2025. A lot of them, they won't be around, and there is a pathway for them this time. You put them in and around this Tottenham first team, they will survive, because in years gone by, the academy and first team were playing different styles of football. Now they're aligned, so it's not a question of an academy player having to come up and getting used to tactics and different instructions. They already know what's expected of them. Now it's just, do you have the quality to execute it? And that's the difference then in years gone by.
100%, and I hope we stick with that pathway, because I remember under Pochettino, when we had him. I remember Poch was very not big on like he wasn't maybe he did bring in through a few academy players, but I remember there was a concerted effort to have the academy play in the same way as the first team, and that was a really good direction to go in. But obviously we kind of scrapped that when we got rid of Pochettino and we went in a very different direction. So I really hope that in the long term we stick with that kind of game plan. We stick with a kind of this is going to be how we want to play football now. And even if Postecoglou does leave, and we will need to find a manager who plays a similar way of playing as well. So that means when academy players do step up to the first team, it isn't they're just thrown cold and they have to learn a new way of playing, but they know the system, they know how to play in that system already, and that'll give a much more fighting chance to being a lot more effective and having that pathway to the first team 100%. Don't get me wrong, I'm super excited about a lot of these young players and the names you were naming before. Ashley Phillips as well. And you've got the Croatian guy. Huh?
I hope you're excited about them as you are about Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly. But you got the Croatian kid coming as well in 2 years' time.
Luka.
As well. Yeah, Luka. Like we didn't mention him as well. He's also a very exciting prospect. But at the end of the day, they're very Scarlett's still there, but they're very, very young players. It's one thing impressing in the academy, impressing at youth level, and it's another thing stepping up to the first team. We've seen a number. There's countless. You can probably name hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of players who have done so well in academy, and then they haven't really made the step up to proper Premier League first team level. So I don't want to say that they're not going to make it, because I'm sure that a lot of these players there's a lot to be excited about, 100%. And the fact that we're investing in our youth team, and we know we've got the best facilities around for all these youth players to develop, and there's no better place potentially than Tottenham right now to be a youth player. But I do think we should keep our feet on the ground about a lot of these young players and not expect too much too soon from them, because they need to all develop at their own rate.
Yeah, I just to add on that, I mean, I think Chelsea absolutely smashed this through when Christian Perslow was there. And actually, I was chatting to John about this a couple of weeks ago. Now, from a business model perspective, sorry to talk about the business side, but from a business model perspective, it's okay to sell some of them youth players as well. If you know, they create a pathway to get them to where they need to be. If they want to move on, or we can't get them into the first team because we're winning Champions Leagues and we're winning titles, and we kind of don't need them, if for want of a better expression, you can go and sell them, homegrown talent for a premium, 20 million, 25 million, 30 million. Chelsea have done that, which is why they've got rid of that whole financial fair play situation as well. So, there is a development, as Tottenham as a development football academy to get to the first team. Absolutely brilliant. I don't think there's anything more rewarding than seeing the likes of a Harry Kane, Harry Winks when he first come through, or Oliver Skipp. These players coming through, one of our own, if you like. That's very, very rewarding. We want to see that. But actually, if they like a Harry Winks, if they get to the point where actually it's time to move on, or they get to the first team but they can't just quite break in, there's nothing wrong also in selling them for 25 million, 20 million, or whatever it is. I know Harry went for a little bit less than that, but that's where you can start to balance out them bigger signings if you need to bring people in. Look, I run a recruitment company called Raw Talent for 10 years before I set up my tech business, and that is all about bringing through the youth of the sales world, of the business world, essentially. So I'm deeply passionate. Probably I'm not as knowledgeable as Dave, clearly, but deeply passionate about bringing the youth through. But actually, there's also no reason, if actually they've done well in the academy, that you can actually move them on as well for their career and also for the benefit of the club. Does that make sense? So I think absolutely balance there as well. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. You look at Cole Palmer. He didn't even have that many appearances, did he? For Man City, went for 45 million.
Exactly. But you look at what City have sold out of that academy. Romain Lavia, Bazunu, they're propping
Trafford,
up.
Trafford went for 15 million. He didn't play it at all. Didn't play a game.
Exactly. And people keep going, where can Man City keep getting the money to fund these £100 million players? Now, look, we obviously know where to get a lot of it, but some of it is funded by youth sales. They do get a good, sort of resale value, and that can also boost our transfer coffers then to put into the senior team. And that's something we failed to do down the last few years. Marcus Edwards, Noni Madueke, people that have got, Madueke went to Chelsea for a big fee. That would have been nice in our transfer coffers. For instance, a guy that walked away because there was no pathway for him, so he didn't sign on the dotted line. Lewis Binks went out to Italy. There's a number of players I can pull up that have done this to us, and look, rightly so. If there's no pathway for them and they're looking up at Sanchez and people like that ahead of them before, going, how can I not get a game ahead of this guy? I'm out of here. But this time around, the reason why they all signed on the dotted line is because they see that pathway. They've been told about the pathway for them to develop. And even if they look, obviously, not all of them are going to make it. You can never say that all of them are going to make it. But we'll take the best ones, and ones that don't make it, you sell on. And you keep propping up your transfer money like that as well.
Absolutely spot on. So, I mean, a lot of things to get excited about. I think that does bring an end to the show. Thank you so much to Lee and Dave for coming and joining us today on the panel. Lee, do you want to let people know where they can find you?
Mate, at Lee McQueen. I'm all over X. Lee.McQueen on Instagram as well. You can, if you're into your kind of LinkedIn and all that sort of stuff, you just find me, Lee McQueen, mate. It's a unique name, to be fair. And obviously, I'm always on Last One on Spurs for doing all of the reviews and that sort of stuff with Ricky and the rest of the guys and girls that we have on the show as well. So big up for having me on, boys, because I absolutely love watching your shows. I think your content is absolutely top draw. And I look forward to next one. I actually wanted to invite you both to do a Last One on Spurs versus We Are Tottenham TV panel type show. So if you're up for doing that between you two and me and Ricky or something like that, would be absolutely superb. So we'll have to get that in the diary later.
We'd love to. We'd love to.
Definitely. Dave, let the people know where they can find you. What's going on the Irish Hotspur this week?
Yeah, look, not as big as, yourselves or Last Word on Spurs. I'm one of them smaller channels out there, but you can find me over at the Irish Hotspur. I try and put out as much content as we can over there. So that's where you'll find me. Really enjoyed this tonight. Thanks for having me, Ben and Sim, and great to be on with you, Lee. A really good show. Really enjoyed it, boys.
Perfect. Top man, Dave. You're superb, mate. Absolutely superb.
Like I said, thank you guys for coming on. Thank you guys out there in the comments for coming and joining us tonight. We'll see you all very soon. Tomorrow is another day of Tottenham content. We'll see you all tomorrow. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.